So, hello, welcome to the Wooden Work podcast. Unfortunately, Josh is unable to join us today, but we do have a guest on. We have Fletch from Smelly Cat Creations here in the UK. Thanks very much for joining us, Fletch.
You're
Please tell
welcome.
everyone a bit about yourself, what it is you actually do, where you're from, etc., etc.
I'm Fletch from Smelly Cat Creations. What it is I do? Well, I do a bit of everything. But Smelly Cat Creations was originally sort of created. I planned it to be a woodworking and sort of just making my own general sort of creations, as is in the name. But it has very much turned into sort of a branding business. So I'm now based in Norfolk, UK. I was originally spent most of my life down in Reading, but I moved here for a bit more space. And yeah, so branding's my main business. I started off mainly with branding irons. That's sort of how got into it. And I spent almost 20 years of my life as a engineer. So that has now sort of trickled over into my business, and I do quite a bit of sort of use the engineering in my daily work as well.
So, when you're saying branding, you actually mean you're not creating the brand for someone, are you? You're creating items. So, like, obviously, I've I have got products of your own. I've got the makers markers, which are excellent. But you're creating items that so if someone's got a company name already, aren't haven't they? They come
Yeah,
to you and say, "I want one of your products," and it's that branding merchandise. Main, I suppose that's what
yeah,
you're creating, isn't it?
yeah. Mainly sort of giving people options to put their brand onto their products, and get their sort of artwork and name out there. Yeah, um,
So you said,
that's basically it.
yeah. So obviously you said about the engineering background, which
Yeah,
obviously I suppose that comes in quite handy with like things like the CNC side of things and what have you. Because obviously I know it's not quite as straightforward as CNC, but at the same time, it is fairly easy to a point until you get to quite all the difference with tool paths, how the metals react and stuff like that. Where I suppose that's where the engineering side of things really sort of helps you understand how things react. And
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I say almost 20 years in engineering. I was a planning and production engineer for sort of 14 years. Um, so I never thought that my sort of engineering would really come into sort of smelly cat creations as such. Um, Generally because sort of metalworking machines and equipment are very expensive, and I didn't think I'd be able to have those sort of machines. So I thought, woodwork was sort of more affordable to have woodworking tools. Um, but it has kind of trickled now. Metalwork is now gone back to being one of my primary items, to be honest. Yeah, so I'm still working on the woodworking shop at the moment.
so with your branding out, just we'll go into the other products shortly, but your branding irons. So are these the ones that do you do the ones where they plug in and the ones that you heat up, or is it just the ones that you heat up with a blowtorch and then use, or and then how do you
Uh,
actually make how do you make the sort of like so if I for example wanted my company logo, how do you
yeah,
transform that logo onto the branding iron for the client?
yeah. So just generally speaking, I just need the art. I just take people's artwork. Hopefully, they've got it in a vector format. So I often have to, a lot of people don't understand the difference between vector format and raster format. Um,
Over my
most
head, pal.
people,
Over my head.
most people just have like a JPEG, or a bitmap image, but you need it in a vector format, such as SVG. So if they haven't got that, I have to convert it over and try and get the best transfer of that
Yeah,
raster
'cause it's
image as
all
possible.
SVGs and G codes that we use for the modelling and printing, CNC and printing side, isn't it? Rather than
Yeah, because a raster image is like a JPEG. Basically, is just made up of tons of little
dots.
dots or squares of color. So what happens is when you explode that image out to a big size, it'll have jagged edges. But whereas with sort of a vector format, it works off X and Y coordinates. So no matter how big you make it, how small you shrink it, it always keeps its exact same shape and
Yeah,
definition.
it's a bit like on the Fusion. I know we can sort of because I know on Fusion, if you I used to use SketchUp or use SketchUp a lot, and if you draw something, it's not in proportion. When you try and blow it up, it messes it up. Whereas with Fusion 360 and some of the cards, is it called proportionate something other when you can stretch something out and all the proportions stay
Yeah.
exactly the same, don't they? Regardless of
Yeah.
size. And that's what you're
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
isn't it? With the
Yeah, so a raster image doesn't work off coordinates or anything. If it fully works off of your coloured um, squares or whatever you want to call it. But with vectors and CAD and DXFs, etc., they all work off of coordinates. So it's all, no matter how much you stretch it, it will always stay the
yeah.
same.
So you've got a lump of, is it aluminium on your branding iron heads? It's
Brass.
brass, is it? Sorry. So that
Yeah,
shows you how much I know, of course, because yeah, aluminium will just bloody melt, won't it? So you've got your lump
I
of,
have done it. I've done a couple in
have
aluminium.
you?
Yeah, just generally whenever someone wants something like large, brass is just so expensive that you need to go to. Aluminium doesn't really work on wood though. I've only really done them in like branding iron in aluminium when it was being used on packaging. So,
Oh, okay, yeah. So you've got your lump of brass, sorry.
yep,
Just so you put that on your CNC. So
yep.
is your CNC going to be water cooled then for cutting the grass, or does it not?
No, ideally it would be, but I don't have my machines. Unfortunately, are not don't have
So
coolant
what
systems
CNC
on
is
them.
it you're using or have it currently for doing your cutting?
I've got three CNCs at the moment. So I've got two Denfords, which are like they're like college machines, what they use in colleges and that students to learn. And then I've got a bit, well, I say big, fairly big, Exec 4, which comes from a company called Stony CNC. So I've got that. I bought that one originally for the woodwork, but it has more and more lately been having metal put on it.
Yeah. So is it still only so it's only a 3-axis CNC? Because it
Yeah,
always confuses me with the 3-axis and the 4-axis with the CNCs. I'm like, well, hang on a minute. So a 3-axis obviously is X, Y, Z. I'm like, well,
yeah,
that's how you can cut a 3D image with that anyway. And that's how I can never understand how you need the fourth axis, but I suppose that's when you're going round a piece as well, isn't it? But I think, well,
yeah,
you just
it
do
is.
that
Yeah.
from the. Oh, it's all things. So then you just cut it. So do you only do the ones where you heat up with a blowtorch and then they press on?
I didn't. When I first started out. I was offering electric as well.
Which go on a
But the
basic
problem
soldering
with
iron, isn't it? Effectively,
it's basically
yeah,
yeah, high powered soldering iron basically. But obviously then I actually became a proper business, and the ones I were getting and importing from China, they didn't pass UK regulations on wiring. And it just wasn't work. They also just weren't reliable. They weren't reliable, and I just didn't want that hassle with them, to be
but
honest.
sometimes it's not worth doing because if you're just going to get more crap back from things constantly coming back to you because they're going faulty. It's
Yeah,
just not worth it. It's just not worth the hassle, is it? Let's face it. Do you know what I mean?
I didn't want someone's workshop burning down from a faulty electric handle and me having to be responsible for that
Well, no,
because
because
I'm,
there's got to be. I mean, I know we have the pat testing, but that's only for products which is over 12 months old. Because if
yeah.
anything's brand new, it doesn't need to be pat tested for 12 months, does it? By the
I also
law.
find, to be honest, that the blowtorch ones are just. I personally, I think they give a better brand, and I think they're
Yeah.
easier
I
personally.
mean, I've never actually used a branding iron full stop. But I know that when we had the conversation originally when I first found you on Instagram, um, I couldn't quite work out which way to go with the logo, so to speak. And I went
Yeah,
with the maker's marks because you do the maker's marks in several different sizes, shapes,
yeah,
and obviously you do the again way too complicated for me. But you do different finishes as well, don't you? So the ones I've got are like black on stainless steel, or they almost look black on stainless steel, which
yeah,
is
yeah. You got the
etched.
annealed ones,
Or
yeah.
yeah,
It's laser
la-
etched, but it's laser annealed.
yeah. But then you do
Yeah.
other ones that look different as well, don't you? You have the different finishes within the
Yes.
markers. So I mean, I went with the markers because I was always worried about a branding iron that because as a joiner, we're quite particular on margins, lines, symmetry, and all that. And the one thing I'd hate to do is get a branding iron, put it on a piece, pull it away, and go, oh, shit, it's like 1 millimeter out square because you can't.
Right. Yeah.
It's on there. It's there for good. Whereas the one thing I like
Yeah.
about the maker's markers when the round ones is I just use a little force and a bit, drill in a mil and a half, bit of super glue, bang them on. If it's not 100% square, you can just pop it off with a knife blade and have another go. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
got that little bit of room margin for error almost on putting
Yeah.
in. Um, so you say you laser etch the maker's marks. So
Yep.
is that the same sort of process as? Because I mean, I've got a little 3018 which I've extended to a 4030 CNC with the generic Chinese hobbyist type things,
Yep.
which take about 5 weeks to
Yep.
cut anything. But it does me for the little bits I need to do. It does me, and obviously I have my CNC
Yeah.
guy for. I use Lignum in Liverpool for anything big because he's got a
Yeah.
queen bee who's has queen bee. So anything I need
Right.
size wise, he'll do for me. But my small stuff, I'll do. I'll wait the 4 weeks, and you know, what I mean, it's fine. But I know I could put a laser attachment. I've got a laser. I've never done it actually. Maybe I should have a go with that this week at some point, or when I get a chance. Is I could put a little laser onto this little CNC. So is that
Yep.
how you do? I'm not saying with the hobbyist one by any stretch of the imagination, but is that how you go about doing the coffee?
The,
Coffee's just
he's got his
my
coffee.
coffee's just come in. So is that how you do the laser etching on the actual pieces? Is that how you actually do it, or how do you do that as
No, I
well?
mean that's with fiber lasers, fiber marking lasers. I got two marking lasers. So if you was to put your little laser attachment on your 3080,
Yeah,
whatever it
the
is,
hobby. It's
that's
it's 120 quid when I bought it. You know what I mean? I've upgraded it
yeah.
slightly, but all brand new, it costs less than 200 quid. So you're not going to expect a
That's
great
a
deal of. It's great.
that's a diode laser attachment that goes on that. So they work on different frequencies, etc. So the one that you've got will be it'll be a diode attachment, and diode lasers are becoming very popular, but they generally don't get used on metal. Um, they're more sort of aimed at wood,
It's just
really.
yeah. The one I've got
Um,
is more for like it burning or paper, or it'll cut cardboard as
yeah,
well, obviously, because
yeah.
it's as you said, it's a hobbyist one. It's not industrial. I think the one I've would I be right in thinking it's probably about 20 watt. The one I've got maybe or five. Is it
Mm,
20
might be five, I'd
5 watt?
imagine. I used to have a yeah, I had a 3D printer that had a 5 watt one
Oh,
add-on.
that's right. Yeah, because you could also I've seen people put them on the enders actually, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not that. That's far too. That's dangerous. That is really dangerous. That is. I just
It was the time that amazed me. I thought I will give it a test, put it on, then I was like, wow, that has taken literally forever to just do
so
a tiny
how
image.
how did so how does your setup then differ from the hobbyist setup that I have for the etching side of things? I mean, for those that are
With
watching on YouTube, obviously, I'll put a little thing down, some pictures down here as we go along, so people can have a visual aid for what it is we're actually talking about.
Yeah, with basically with the fiber lasers, they're called galvo lasers. They don't. There's no moving X and Y. There's no moving X and Y gantry. It's the lasers purely is simply it's got its laser source at the back of the machine, and it's purely it bounces it off of mirrors, and but the mirrors move. So the little mirrors in the head just above the lens, they're moving at a ridiculously fast speed, so they're moving the laser off, so
All right.
your job stays static where you want it. There's nothing moving while you're doing it, or you can't see anything moving, but the mirrors at the above are moving the laser source at a
So
ridiculously fast
is
speed.
yours almost like, say, in a box then? So it's
Yeah,
like a box,
it's
and it's a
yeah.
lid that you pull up, and you put the
No,
piece in
it's
or
in like
type thing.
it's like a computer
All
case.
right.
It's very similar to a sort of PC case, and then coming out of that, you've got like the arm, and then at the end of the arm, you've got the lens, and just above the lens, you've got the
All
mirrors,
right. It's quite.
and then the laser source is in the case, and it comes up through the mirrors, and then it bounces off the mirrors through the
See, because I
lens.
almost assumed it was a bit like the same sort of principle as the XYZ um, CNC thing. A bit like how, because like the glow forges and those, they all work in a similar sort of way with the XYZ, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I mean, I've not seen a glow forge in person. I've only seen them on the YouTube channels of people using them for like doing like birch ply and which they look really good actually. Quite, I mean, they are very very expensive, aren't they? The glow forged. I think about four
Yeah,
thousand pounds or something for. But again, everything's worth different to different people, isn't it? For its
it
cost
is.
versus.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a big bed large CO2 laser as well, which is what I use for my sort of wood cutting and perspex, etc. So I've got a big CO2 laser
Yeah,
as
because
well.
that's the other one. Because I know one of my clients, whenever he was out working at his house, doing a lot of oak work at his house a while ago, he had a little oak. So he had a little CO2 laser cutter thing. It was probably about the
Yeah,
piece size of maybe what, A2 paper size. It wasn't a massive one.
right.
He had to have it vented
Yeah,
outside, and it was quite interesting because he was. I was actually doing. So I was doing a lot of oak work. So I was doing like door frames and what have you, and I got these little pieces. And I was like, "Oh, that's all burn fodder. That slot it." No, no, no. I can use that. What? That's scrap, mate. Because and then he sort of he made me realise, which it's changed a lot of what I do, sort of to a point. And that's one reason why I got the little CNC because it's the old thing where one man's scraps another man's treasure. It really is to a point.
yeah,
And there's a lot of what I call the hobbyist woodworkers, which again they can knock out some amazing pieces. Don't get me wrong, and they've got I don't think you have to be a professional by any sense. When I say professional, you have to have a qualification by any sense of the imagination
yeah,
to be able to do this sort of work. Um, but yeah, you see some of these people, and like I know that Sam at Monkey Boy's workshop wearing one of his t-shirts again. People, I seem to reach this one on a Sunday. Actually, it's weird, and I know that he gave a load of his offcuts from his jobs. No use to him. He gave them to one of his Patreons. And Nick was absolutely made up because he could do so much with all them scraps. And you see a
yeah,
lot of people using scraps on YouTube videos these days. Look what I made from scraps. You can do it. You can do it, and that's what
yeah.
it,
You can, yeah,
that's what really made me think about how I can utilize pieces, and you can see how different. And he made me learn about not maybe learn, but I appreciate it. I never knew about the CO2 burning. I just I thought that was something else, and I didn't really understand CNCing because the CNCing I'd always seen would always been the people with the big 84 or 10 by 5 beds. We're talking like the
yeah,
20,000, 30,000 pound machines. And then bit by bit, I've seen more and more of it, and it's definitely become a lot more affordable for the hobbyist. Like I said,
yeah. There's a lot more.
200,
There's a lot more
two
machines
hundred
out
quid for
there.
a little hobby CNC. It's not brilliant, but the thing is, for the other little thing I need to do, if I think, oh, I need to do such and such for a post or a video, I can knock a quick template out. All right, it might take 25 minutes on that, and it'll only take a normal CNC 5, but it's going to take me longer to drive to my CNC, make with the CNC to get it done to come back. And it's the
Yeah,
same with the
yeah.
3D printers as well, because I know you do an awful lot of 3D printing as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do quite a lot of 3D printing. Yeah, I got my new one
Oh,
back
what's that?
there
Is that a
behind me.
Flash
Uh,
Forge? Is it?
no, that's a Bamboo Labs X1
Oh, that's right. I remember
carbon
seeing it
with
now. Yeah,
it's got an AMS4 reel setup
that's right. I
next to
remember
it
you
as well.
saying you'd
Yeah,
actually had that. Sorry, because they look very similar, don't they? From exterior looks, they look very similar because it's like
yeah,
with it being resin, it's in a closed box within itself anyway, isn't it? Like,
yeah. So these ones are FDM, and then I had like up to 10 3D printers at one point. I've cut right back now, so I've got two Ender threes over there. So I've got four FDM machines and
so
two
what is
resin
FDM?
printers.
Sorry.
It's filament basically. It's just a reel of filament, PLA, ABS.
So
It's
so
just
it's
a
just
reel of
another type
filament
of
that
plastic that you can put through
yeah,
effectively.
it's an additive
All right.
manufacturing. Yeah, so it's just just melts down the reel through the nozzle, and
Oh no,
then yeah.
I've not heard of
I'm not
FDM.
great. I'm not great at
No,
explaining these technically. I just know how to
yeah,
do
because
them.
I've got the Ender 3. I've got two Ender 3s,
Yeah,
and I use
yeah,
PLA plus because again
yeah.
with things like the ABS and all that, you need them to have enclosures to keep the temperatures up
Yes,
and all
yeah.
that sort of thing.
So that one's obviously that's why it's good for that because it's got the enclosure, it's
Yeah,
got
well,
extraction.
I did
End
actually
of
look at that bamboo when you said because I've seen a couple of people on um, Instagram recently with them, and then I saw the price. I'm like, yeah, it's way out of my price range for. So was it
it,
1,500,
yeah,
200, £2,000, something like that?
it was about 1,500. Yeah, it was about 1,500 quid. I had a Prusa XL on order, which was more than that was about 1800. I had that on order, but they've been delaying it and delaying it, and I cancelled that and bought this one in the end. But Ender threes, like if anybody says to me, I always recommend the Ender three. I think they're for
I
the
think that's
money, they're
superb.
brilliant printers. They're brilliant. I mean, and they will they can knock out some amazing things. Yeah, they're great and they're reliable. Which mine have
Oh,
always
I
been
don't know
really
because
reliable for me.
see that's where I mean I've done quite a few big projects. We say big projects, lots of individual items because I made a display coaster for my Rubio monocoat, and I
Yeah,
think what was that now? It was a month for solid printing because there were
a
it was
month. Like,
literally
yeah,
I had one printer doing an 18-hour print every day, and I had the other one
right.
doing two 6-hour prints every day, and that was just to make all the
Keeping
components I
them.
needed for making it. And you know what? The two enders, they knocked that out the park, and not a problem with it at all. Literally, as soon as I finished that project, they both shit the bed, and I couldn't get them to work again for ages. So I find with enders that they are very good, and I mean I've had the same problems recently. I got it working again. I hadn't realised, but there's a little tiny Allen key on the hot end that holds it to the sort of gantry, if you like, and that had come loose. So
Yeah,
the hot end nozzle was moving ever so slightly, which was giving the look of
right,
under extrusion, but it wasn't. And I couldn't work
right.
it out because I was doing the test and I was absolutely spot on. And every print was absolutely awful. It looked like it was under extruding. Cool. And then I just noticed it was a bit,
Yeah,
and we're only talking quarter of a mil movements, but quarter of a mil on something that precise is a massive amount. But I
yeah,
did
yeah,
find with the enders, I mean, I'd recommend anybody that wants to get one. They are very, very easy to build, set up, and get a print out the box. All you need to do is learn
yeah.
how to level the bed, and you'll go to any 3D printing site, and especially when it's with the Ender 3s in mind, the answer to any problem you ever have with Ender 3 is level the bed 100% of the time.
It is.
But when they're good,
Yeah,
don't touch them. They're brilliant. You can knock out loads of prints. But I find that all of a sudden they'll shit the bed. And when they shit the bed, you end up, I've had new hot end, new extruder, new springs, and that's just to get it working again because everything seems
yeah,
to go at once. But the good thing is the parts are super cheap to replace, like the Capricorn tubing
yeah,
that went faulty, which I hadn't realised, which was bizarre. £5, £6, it's nothing. And even people that I've done prints for like the kids, these little flexi rexes, and all, I love doing the flexi rexes. But
right, yeah,
people don't realise, like, oh my god, it must be so complicated. Because the thing is, back in day, I say back in day, when I was a kid, 3D printing was like only just starting, and it was like you had to be super rich to own a 3D printer. It's a bit like the old supercomputer things.
yeah,
A supercomputer was the size of a office, whereas now you can fit it on top of your workbench. It's not a problem. Um, and it was something that was always going to be over. You're never going to be achieved to own something like that, or so we thought. But with the way that technology has obviously improved these last 15, 20 years, 100 quid for an Ender 3, it's nothing. You know what I mean? And you can get out.
no,
I mean, there's a
no.
lot
I
of
mean,
free files out there that the Amazon Basics PLA, which is 12 quid a roll, prints just fine. And I'm talking here for the
yep,
hobbyists, not for professional selling prints by any stretch of the imagination. But they're good
yeah.
fun. I mean, I really enjoy the 3D. They're infuriating. They are infuriating.
They certainly can be, yeah. But I mean, I think with the end of threes, especially, and any sort of budget hobby 3D printer, that is a great way to learn. When they go wrong, that you don't really learn until it goes wrong. That's the
It
main
is.
learning curve. When it's gone wrong, right? What is it? What's and long term, that's what gives you the better knowledge, isn't it? When you sort of like, well,
It
what
is.
is that that's done
It's
that?
like anything though. It's like you can't be a car mechanic without understanding how it works because
Yeah, and I think the best way to learn how something works is when it goes wrong and you've got to
it is. I
diagnose it.
mean, it's knowing how. But I mean, the good thing again though with social media, especially these days, it's very easy to reach out to someone, whether that be on a Facebook group, reach out to someone that is on Instagram or whatever. Um, you know, most people will answer you regardless, unless it's some sort of like highly um, social media influencer or famous person. They don't always answer. But I was like saying that I've had good responses from all the influencers I've ever and creators I've ever spoke to. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways that you can find out, and I think it's a great way for kids to learn how to do things. I mean, I don't have any kids, obviously. But I'd have no qualms buying a 3D printer for a 13-year-old kid these days. They're more than capable of learning how to do it.
No.
I mean, the kids these days understand technology so much better than what we did or when I did when I was that age. Because I mean, I had dial-up internet, mate. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
beep beep beep. I remember having. I mean, I think my first computer was it either a Commodore 64 or a Spectrum ZX or something. You know what I mean? You had to put a cassette tape in.
Yeah.
That's how our computers loaded up. None of this switching it on and then boom, it's there already. You had to switch a computer on 3 hours before you wanted to play a game. Yeah,
With a
with a tape.
tape.
It was a tape. It was hilarious. But we had to use your ZX and I think it was KM up keys or something like that to go up and down, left and right. Was it like Chucky or
Yeah.
something? Was one of the big ones.
Yeah.
It was all 2D.
I've only just got decent internet, to be fair. Yeah, I live right on the edge of
Yeah,
a
it's
village,
a
so
bit
I've had.
strange down Norfolk way in it because of it's lovely down there with all the forests and all that on the coastline. I mean, I love it down Thetford, but
But I've got finally
yeah,
got some
it does
decent
make.
internet. Yeah.
But yeah, but going back to your bamboo printer and stuff like that. I mean, some of the prints I've
Yeah.
seen coming out of that are astonishing, aren't they? When you get to that sort of professional level, I mean, that's a professional entry level machine, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say it's sort of entry level
And the
professional. Yeah.
qualities I've seen coming out of that stuff is amazing. Um, like all the little
Yeah,
miniature, because
it's
like
fast
I
as
know a
well.
lot of people do it for the miniatures. So again, back in
Yeah.
day when I was a kid, Warhammer 40,000, obviously it's still going, and he had all the Citadel and all those sort of things. Um, I used to love Warhammer, to be honest. I used to love the Space Marines one. I used to love that. I had
Yeah.
some right good collections. I did. Anyway, so so you'd have to go and buy your truck or buy the Rhino trucks, I think it was, or you have to buy your miniatures. A miniature was something like £7 for one miniature, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, again, as I'm talking 20 years ago, here, over 20 years, it was an awful lot of money
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
one miniature. So I see a lot of people now that can actually buy these printers and you can knock out an entire fleet of miniatures, and it'd actually be cheaper than buying the miniature separately. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I never got into 3D printing on it originally because I
Yes.
just saw it as gimmicky. Because people were knocking out just models, and I don't generally like to make anything unless it's got a sort of purpose. So, but my 3D printers, I generally use them for like fixtures or fixings, and I use them for sort of
But
useful
that's the exact
components.
same reason why
Um,
I originally got my 3D printers because there was a few little tools I wanted, or accessories, should we say, not tools, but accessories for my tools, and no one made them, and I needed them because it was a massive opening. It was actually for the Boris Centipede, to be honest. And basically, I used to have an MFT top. I wanted to hold down the MFT to the Boris Centipede, and there was no hold downs. The only hold downs board there were these big plastic stupid arms that came over, sat on top of the worktop, and they got in the way. So I designed these pegs, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm onto it." There was a massive hole in the market. Anyway, by the time I'd actually
yeah.
done it, about a year later, Bora have actually now done these same sort of hold downs. I'm not saying that they've not copied me by any stretch of the
Okay.
imagination, because I never ended up putting mine out to
Yeah.
market because I couldn't be arsed with the knobheads on the copying me and all the problems I had. People said I was copying their designs when I had the own designs, and I'd released it before them, idiots. Do you know what I mean? So
It's very
yeah,
hard
so I
to
mean,
be original. Yeah.
oh no, but I was original. I mean, I had one particular thing where
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was 100% the first. I had all the drawings. I put it on social media. The very next day, another fairly well-known person put that product online, exactly the same as mine, and everyone was saying I copied him. And went, my product was posted before his. How could I have copied? It's impossible. I physically released it
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
he
I'm
did.
with you.
So, because we all have similar ideas with ideas, you know what I mean? But yeah, I actually bought it, and like I've broken a
Yeah.
few things over the years. So I think I've had a printer now for maybe 3 years, 4 years, something like that, since I've had printers. And as you say, I break something, just take some calipers, quick. CAD thing, measure it up.
Measure it up.
Because
Yeah.
didn't you just make? Did I not just see you made a re-spool or something for your bamboo? Was it you who saw that? With all the different
Yes.
cogs and
Yeah. That's it.
handles, and
Yeah.
it looks like a really cool project, to be honest. And
Yeah.
it, it it's just
It
so
works
cool how
really
you can
well. Yeah.
literally,
It
if you
works
can
really
think
well.
it and it'll fit on the size of the printer that you have, you can do it. You can print it.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that respooler. Credit to the guy. I can't remember his name who designed it, but it works. It's a brilliant. The engineering and design that's gone into it is such an
It's one of those
amazing
things, though. It's
model.
so simple,
It, wo-
yet the amount of work that's gone into that is ridiculous. Isn't the design side, the design of the engineering of it?
the
And
design
yet, no
side,
doubt, it's
yeah,
probably a
yeah.
free file that you can download somewhere. Or yeah,
You
I
can
mean
just
that's
go
the
and
great
get it for
thing about.
free,
There's
yeah.
so many
But
models out there, isn't there?
he would have put so much time into designing that. Yeah, it's amazing what you can go out there and
Same
get
with the
for
CNC
people will
files, though, isn't there? There's so many. I mean, I
offer up for
use.
free.
So I think I use. Is it called Inventables and Easel Pro? Well, I don't use a Pro. Sorry, I use a free
Yeah,
version, which is called Easel, because I only cut basic. I don't need to do all V bits and engravings, and that's not what I need mine to do. But again, there's so many files on there that you can just download, get a piece of wood, bang it on your CNC, cut off, job done. It's there for you. There's such a
yeah,
wealth of
yeah,
information out there for people to get now. One thing I wanted to ask you about actually as well, just diversing, because I'm very good at jumping one subject to the other. I've seen your neon signs, which are just
yeah,
behind you at the minute, which I've seen you do them a few times.
yes,
How do you make them? Because they look
yeah,
really cool. Again, people, I'll put pictures um, on the YouTube. Well, I don't know why I'm telling you on Pete. So go to his page to look on his Instagram page to see the pictures of it. Because if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the pictures behind him anyway. Stupid comment for me to make. Things you forget when you're videoing as well as radio. So these Leon signs, sorry, how do you do them? Because they're really cool. Because one thing
yeah,
I want to do is I've actually put a little story out on my Instagram this morning, and it was like because I want to diversify my channel slightly, because I don't want to do just
right,
joining. So I'm going to change the name slightly
right,
to then it opens up the
okay,
niche slightly more. Because I don't just do joining, I do crafting, I
right,
do
yeah,
all the bits and bobs. You know what I mean? So I want it. And one thing I thought, oh, I might try and make a neon sign and that sort of thing. And I've seen your neon signs
yeah,
recently. So how is that on a piece of
yeah,
perspex? Is it hanging? And you got
yeah. I had to
and
turn
you've
that one
got a
down. It was
floor,
too
not
bright.
a
It was
floor, so a desk mounted one there, haven't you as well? So
there's
how do you do those sort of? How are
yeah,
you
yeah.
making them?
They're CO2 lasered, those ones, but you can make them on a
No, I'm going to carve mine out
CNC
by hand,
machine
mate.
as
I'm
well.
doing it old
So
school, the router. Yeah, yeah.
you're going to
So
do it
how do you
old
do? So
school.
you've CNC'd out. So the one
Yeah,
behind you is the I don't know if I'll say, it, but Tron, the very well known film.
yeah.
Do you? Now, were you about for the original Tron though? Was it just the second Tron that?
It's the second one. I like both of them, but the second one's
But that's a lot
Tron
more up
Legacy
to
is
date.
my
But I
favorite.
remember, I remember Tron, the original one, coming out in the cinema. um, so
Yeah,
the Tron. So
yeah.
you've said you've lasered it. So what do you do? Do you just like almost cut the Tron sign? How do you get the lights into the Trons? What I'm saying, because it's
You're basically just you're engraving the back of the perspex, so you're engraving it from the back, um, and then it's basically you don't want to go too deep with it, and then the light just shines through
oh, so you've
the
actually
top
only
of the
got a lot like a
perspex.
strip light above the perspex or below the perspex piece, so to speak, and that shines up through the perspex
Yeah,
piece,
so that
and
there's
then it reflects differently because it's
yes,
engraved. That's reflecting the light
yeah,
differently to what the non-engraved.
to
Ah,
what the actual
no, you
yeah,
see, the neon light I was
yeah,
thinking of, I was actually going to engrave a bit into some wood, and then I was actually going to physically use
yeah.
some. I was going to hit up one of my suppliers actually for some LED lights, and I was actually going to do some with some LED strip lights and come through the back and shape it and do like.
Okay,
I
yeah,
think that'd be more like a neon sign that I'm talking about rather than a. Do you know what I mean? Almost like tubular lights in it because I
yeah.
put the covers on it and all that.
Okay, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't.
I can't. Yeah, yeah. I love things that light up. To be honest, so I just make. Yeah,
So
I
is
love
the
light
sorry
up things.
the floor so the desk standing one? What is because that's not very clear on the actual image to what we have. I'll put a little picture here on the thing. But what is that? What just describe what it is if you don't mean the desk standing one. Yeah, what is it you've done on
What's the
it?
picture? That's my alternative Smelly Cat Creations logo. So I've got like my friendly one, and then I've got like an alternative one, which is half a cat
Oh
face,
right,
half
so
a
that's
cat
just what
skull.
it's your other company
Uh,
logo. So just
it, it's my other
okay.
alternative
So
logo. Yeah,
you'd mentioned about woodworking
yeah,
at the very start. It's like how you actually wanted to.
yep,
Well, that's what sent you down the sort of the path that what it is you're actually doing now, which is the engineering side, the metal engineering work, and the obviously your perspex lights and those sort of things, and the branding for
yep,
clients that come to you like myself. So
yep.
what did you much in the way of the woodworking side of things, or is that just much very much a excuse me, coffee's repeating on me there. Is that very much just a more of a hobby, the woodworking side for yourself?
Um, no, not necessarily. I mean, I do quite a lot of wooden signs, CNC wooden signs. I've never done much in the way of joinery. But then I've never really been that interested in making tables or chairs. That's just not really been something that's interesting. I like to do everything. To be honest, I'm no good at just the reason why I now work for myself. I'm no good at just doing one thing. I'm terrible. You can't just put me there and go, right, that's your job. Now stay doing. I can't do it. The only reason I got to work in engineering for so long is that my old employer realised that I was no good at doing just one thing, and they let me jump about and run multiple machines, go in the office, do planning. To them it was an advantage. They were getting lots of
Yeah,
jobs out of one person, but to me it stopped me being bored. uh, so I like to do everything, electronics, metalwork, woodwork, everything is for me. It's all just a
yeah.
learning. I just like the learning side of
So I
everything.
must,
uh, Woodwork wise, I'm currently obviously
yep,
working on the
I've seen that
woodwork
on your
wood
Instagram. Yeah,
workshop. um, so I wired up the lights in there yesterday, and today I was hoping to go out and fit all the sockets in there. Uh, and then I plan to get back to some more sort of woodwork once that's back up and running. But it'll be more sort of things like, yeah, chopping
yeah.
boards, signs,
Say
um,
when I say
practical
joinery,
burning,
I sort of
which,
use that as that's the larger umbrella of woodworking, if you know what I mean, to a point in my mind, because it is a
yeah,
joiner that is the skilled
yeah,
side of the trade, which is obviously more like the bench stuff.
yeah,
Well, no, that sounds wrong. It's not. That's not the skills side. That's what how we call it. A carpenter is a person on site. A joiner is someone that's in the workshop in the UK. Which again,
yeah,
people get wrong all the time. It's hilarious. Um, but yeah, so that's one thing I love about I say joinery woodworking because I've been doing some of the woodworking projects recently that are I'd say far from my remit of. I've been doing some wood carving. I'm getting involved with selling some bits up to a wood turner. I want to get my own lathe at some point. Um, but yeah, I just love the
yeah,
diversity of it. And I mean, I don't get bored because even though I might make like a full chest of drawers or whatever, the next job isn't a set of chest of drawers, it's something else. So even though I might spend 2 weeks on that piece of furniture or
yeah,
whatever, the next time it's something different. So it's interesting to me, as you
yeah,
say. And quite often
yeah. I'm with you.
again,
Yeah,
I'll come up on
yeah,
a Sunday, or we'll say a Sunday. It doesn't make much difference really. If I'm having a if I was having a day off, which I don't really have, I'll come and do something different,
yeah,
and I'll do like a bit of carving or something because I find it quite enjoyable to learn. It's like learning, and whether that be again the
yeah.
editing, the lighting, cameras, and all that sort of thing. I'm learning for the YouTube side. Yesterday we made some. I don't know if you saw it on my Instagram. We made some glasses with some clay. Made some goblets out of clay. Yeah, I have to have a look at that. It was
All
real.
right, no, I
I got
didn't
the
see that. I
idea
haven't
from
seen that yet.
Nerdforge.
No.
Yeah,
Oh no, yes
yeah.
I
So
did. Yes I did.
it
Yeah, I
was.
did see
Uh,
that. Yeah,
the missus wanted something, to do something different because obviously I don't really do a great deal. We don't go out or anything like that really. So I'd seen this on Nerdforge. Like, that looks a bit different. It's not really my sort of thing. Do you know what? I
yeah.
really quite enjoyed it. I mean, she's the least
Did you?
artistic or craft person in the world, and I thought she would have got bored after 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Bless her, she did it, and hers was the popular one. It actually looked pretty good, to be fair. We're actually we baked. We're going to paint them this afternoon once I've finished all these video calls and stuff I've got to do,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I've got a few other bits I need to do today. And yeah, it was. But I like
Yeah.
doing the diverse side and doing something totally different and out of my comfort zone to a point because it's interesting. I like, as you say, it's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
learning and again, with all the amount of software you need to know, so you'll have your different
Yeah,
software, obviously for your 3D, then you got your carving, then you've got your CNC, and there's so much different software and design programs that are available, and then learning the new
yeah, there is.
aspects
Yeah,
or plugins of those programs that might make your pieces better. I get what you mean. I like being challenged
yeah,
myself,
yeah,
and
yeah. I like the challenge. I mean, I like it when the customer comes to me and says, yeah, the biggest problem I found since being in business is that, uh, well, for me, is my biggest problem recently is that I don't know what to describe myself as because what I'm actually probably creating. I'm actually going to be creating another business name to take some of the engineering side away because I want to bring in, because people tell me that Smelly Cat Creations doesn't sound like
yeah,
a
it was something we
professional
spoke about
business.
on
Uh,
um,
um,
direct messages, isn't it?
yeah, and that, I get told, well, that doesn't a business won't take you seriously with that name. Obviously, it appeals very well to the maker community, and it works well. People remember it, but obviously, engineering is my background, so I want to also be doing. I'd like to be able to get work from. I still actually do. I do actually do some work now for my old employer of 14 years. So that's that's quite a
Yeah.
cool achievement. I think that
No,
I'm
I
still
know what
doing
you mean
work for
about the name because,
them
like I said, I've put
outside.
a little thing on my Instagram this morning because everyone's seen me on my Instagram page now. I mean, it's my own doing because of the way I've directed what I'm doing. Because I am slowly changing what I'm doing. I'm seen as a content creator and doing tips and hints and tips and that sort of thing. So people aren't seeing me as the on my Instagram page at least as the furniture maker,
Yeah,
which is what I do. Or I'm going down that line.
yeah,
So I am splitting
yeah.
up. I'm not splitting up the company, but I'm going to do a side page. So I'm going to have. So I'm basically going to have this page,
Yes, that's what.
which I'm on, which will be for the page which I've already got on my Instagram, which will be for the content creating and the business clientele, if you like, the business side of the thing. The YouTube will have the
Yeah,
same name because that will keep that as an entity of the content created. But as you say, I'm trying to work out now what name can I have, which will draw in the clients because a client looks at my page and they see it as content creating. They don't see it as I'm building fine furniture,
yes.
which I do. Yeah,
Yeah, that's basically exactly what I'm doing. Yeah, it's because I'll often come to the point where I think people will say to me a lot of the time, "Oh, you need to put more of yourself on your Instagram." They want
yeah,
people want to see you making it. People want to see, but then I think, well, then that will put off some customers, maybe like a business to business customer. So I'm going to keep Smelly Cat Creations as it is, just general maker, like you say, content creator, because I'm
yeah,
trying to work on the YouTube channel more as well. Um, but I'm gonna I've got I'm splitting it another page off, which will just be more sort of aimed at, yeah, it's just
yes,
showing services available, engineering services, etc. available.
yeah.
It's a bit more
It's a very
professional,
it is a very
if
hard one because
so
the
to
thing is I
speak.
don't want to split my page down because then I've already got obviously I've got the my own personal JCR page. We've got the Wooden Work page. I've got my YouTube channel.
Yeah,
We've got the Wooden Work podcast, and then I've got my furniture. So I'm already splitting myself up too thinly as it is with everything I need to do. I mean, there's
a
enough
lot to
social
keep on
media
top of.
between the
Yeah,
two pages as it is, without adding a third into the mix. But the thing is, it's one of those things where,
yeah,
as you say, it's the portfolio side of things where the businesses like the the makers markers, like I've had off you, which they are brilliant. And anybody, you need to go and check out his page, check out his products. They are absolutely superb. I've had a lot of clients of my clients commenting as well how good it makes the drawer boxes look. It just gives that little sort of professional
yeah.
finishing touch, and it sort of, do you know what I mean?
I think from, yeah, from my engineering, and I was always sort of taught finish everything to the best quality possible. I used to work making high security locks for a long time, and they used to go to Windsor Castle and places, and so products needed to be finished to an extremely high standard. So I like that's how I will kind of want people to finish. I mean, people have come to me and I know there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of plywood
Yeah,
Maker Mark discs around, and have done some for some customers. But as I mentioned, I don't like doing them. I don't like someone taking a piece of oak or a nice wood,
yeah.
or and then sticking a piece of plywood in the bottom.
Well, see,
It just seems wrong to me. I understand it, and I fully understand it, and I fully understand that they have their place, but I'm always sort of like finish. I know Maker Mark discs, for instance. Some
they're
people
not.
say, well, they're expensive, but I think within their right market, I think they're worth their
No, I
like
agree
they add
because
the value to
I
the
had
finish
looked
of the
about doing
product.
the plywood birch markers myself, and time we had the conversation as well at the time when I was about to place
Yeah,
an order with yourself. But the thing is, a lot of my stuff is I'm going down the plywood route, so for me, it would fit in with my products or certain products. But then, as you say, when I'm doing the oak drawer boxes, a bit of plywood does not cut it on a piece of solid oak. So yeah,
no, I mean that's what I say.
absolutely.
They have their place. Everything has its place. It just I just don't like
Yeah.
sticking plywood in oak, or
Well,
plywood
see,
in
that's why the
walnut.
other
It
reason as
just
well,
it
where you
just
do me
doesn't
those little
seem right.
sequential ones with the logo, and I've got some which have like 001, 002, and they go up. So every single piece of
Yes, yeah,
furniture, whatever I do now, I hide one of them somewhere because it's a case of,
right,
it's the number, and I just think it adds a little bit more of a bit of a class almost to the piece because not like I did the chessboard for my dad recently,
yeah,
and that wasn't having a maker's mark on it because it was the wrong thing to have a maker's mark on. So it had one of the sequential number pieces on instead
right,
because that shows it's like a.
yeah,
So it doesn't matter if it's a chessboard, chest of drawers, set of drawers are made, or whatever. It gets one of them little sequential pieces on. But like when it's doing a set of coasters, they're not going to have any
yeah,
markers
yeah.
on because that's a waste of time and money. Um,
Yeah, exactly. But that's
no,
coasters and
but
things.
for the
That's where
drawers, I do
they're
think
not
they really
really
set off the drawer boxes on the
needed.
side,
It's not.
having my little JCR down the side. You open up the drawer, you've got my thing. People won't notice it per se, as in thing, but kitchen drawers.
Yeah,
If you ever open up a kitchen soft closed door, you can guarantee there's a grey plastic tab with either the company like Blum or the custom or the benchmarks have put their own in there, and you have their name there because it's branding. Do you know what I mean? You put your name where it's going to be on the eye level.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
I say I do think it's definitely worth having these makers markers. I say I think people you need to go and check out his page, see what it is he does because they are really good quality. And I mean I know you said they were expensive. They're not expensive at all, Fletch. I think they're super cheap for what they are. I mean, even when I've had people say to me, where'd you get them from? Obviously, I point them in your direction and say they're not that expensive either. They're only whatever they were for whatever. I can't remember now. And they're like, really? I thought they'd be a lot more than that. I'm like, well, no, they're not. And that's why, you know what I mean? Because I don't know how many of people that have
yeah,
come to me have come to yourself afterwards, but I've had easy a dozen people ask me where I get them from, and of course I point in your direction because they're
yeah.
good.
I mean, the way I try to sort of appeal to the maker community more, etc., is that obviously businesses normally would want bigger businesses would normally want to take sort of an order of 100, whereas I'll
Yes,
take an order as little as sort of like 10. I don't mind
which is
trickle
also very
feeding
good
them
for
to
people if they want
people,
to try something out. Because I mean, I bought
because
some of the think 20 mil ones, and then it's like there were nothing wrong with
yeah,
them. When I actually sort of looked at them and like when I got them and I put them on my piece, they're too small. I need bigger. So I went with a 30, so I ordered some more.
yeah,
And again, and as you say, so someone isn't having to go and spend 100 quid on a big order to go, crap, they're not the size for me. They could order 10 off you for however many the 10, I can't remember. It wasn't a lot. I know it was pence. Well, it wasn't pence, but
yeah. I mean, I've put them all in my shop now, so people don't
okay.
always find my shop, but I've got a shop where you can just go and it's
I'll
shop
say
shop dot
I'll
smelly
put
cat
all the links
creations
in
dot com.
down below for everyone
Lots of
so they
things.
can go and check out all your products. I think that's a good place to call it a day. So once again, I'd like to thank Fletch from Smelly Cat
No
Creations
problem.
for joining us today taking time out of his busy Sunday morning. Well, getting up out of bed on a Sunday morning, should I say? Okay.
Getting up was
Thank you
the
very
hard
much,
part,
Fletch.
yeah.